So yes, lads, welcome to Knockoff Show. Tonight we got Rash Cubs, and we're just talking about identity in football. Obviously, we'll touch on the importance in terms of young players, Cubs. Obviously, being a coach, the role that you play in understanding that players, the younger players coming through, how important it is for them to tap into their identity and understanding how that plays in them executing their roles as footballers. And obviously, for me and Rash, is more about from the fan perspective. And we'll just have a conversation around that. So the first question I sort of wanna ask, like, for you Cubs, at what age a player comes into the academy, say at the age of 9?
Yeah.
At what age do you, or is there any sort of structure that's already going into shaping that player's identity, or is it literally a case of he's just here to play football and the struggles he or she now, because the women's game is growing as well, that's more for parents to do at home in terms of heritage and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think straight away when a kid comes, anyway, even at school, and not, I don't know how deep to go so early.
Nah, just speak open about it.
Yeah, if a kid comes into an environment and they come into execute or play and express themselves, as soon as there's anything to do with expression, my opinion, I think the people I would kind of speak to, identity comes into it.
Yeah.
I.e., on the field or on the training pitch or in the dome or wherever they're playing, how do they express themselves?
Yeah.
And then personally, I've probably got a bias or what I'm interested in, what I like. I straight away start asking questions, and I'm very interested as to okay, let's say there's a real expressive dribbler.
Yeah.
And he goes by people, fearless, wants to do it. And then I'll be honest, if I now hear that he might have a certain heritage or something, I won't say it's because of that, but I'm going to be really interested in, so what foods do you eat? Or what do you like to do? Or do you like music and stuff? Because I just feel like the football and anything we do fits into the life context.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think as coaches, we definitely lose something if we don't consider that.
Yeah.
Even if it's a try list, because it might give you some help as to what may be in there in terms of potential, or how that potential might be unlocked.
But obviously, playing devil's advocate, someone would say, how do you get that in an environment where you're dealing with potentially 25 people? So that's a lot of workload for a coach to take on board, to go, well, Sam needs this, Laura needs this, Jermaine needs this, Lucas needs this. So in some ways, it kind of becomes blanketed in how everyone's treated. And that's why I said, like, the identity thing, especially if we look at what's sort of gone on social media because of the Euros and the backlash a lot of black players have got. I don't think a lot of people seek to understand people's identity and affiliation to their own in terms of
who they are.
Yeah. So as a coach, how do you go about making sure that at least you're having a interpersonal relationship with each of your players?
Yeah, that's where I was gonna say. Like, I think there's something just like probably it relates to, like, if you're a school teacher.
Yeah.
Or if I go even one more into like normal, every job's quite normal, but like jobs like working in the post office, or working at a supermarket, there's gonna be social demand in that job. So I think as coaches, again, maybe not everyone might buy into it in this way, but our job is to work with young people from family contexts. And then if we see them 10 hours a week, even, which could be quite a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
How many hours are there in a week? I can't. I've seen that.
No, it is. Yeah.
There's 300 plus whatever hours or 200 whatever hours in the week. So if I can't believe that what I see from you from 10, nowhere near the full story.
Yeah.
But to say to your question, you need probably a certain type of people, which you will get, which is what you get. Like some of the coaches I see and how interested people are in kids' psychology, And just without even realizing it, some people might even say, "Oh, they're not. I don't really know about psychology," but they go, "Oh, I noticed that mum does that for a job, so he's gonna not get in on time this day." And blah, blah. They're so engaged in the potential and what kids can grow to be. I think that's a really solid, and oftentimes, as it should probably be across the board. But the guys that coach the youngest ages in the academies, which is what I thought I would do for a long time anyway. The guys were very much like that.
Okay.
So quite bubbly, oftentimes, and quite engaging with the family, so that you can get to know the player, the person.
Yeah.
As much as you can, as you say, with the amount of kids that there are.
And I think also for me anyway, because I speak to predominantly a lot of black players, and I always try and go back. I'm not someone that lives in the past, but I always try to seek to understand someone's before to see why they're where they are now. So, and a common thing that always comes up is mum and dad wasn't present when I was playing in the academy. So on the Sunday when the game's on,
from black families,
just from a black family's perspective, because obviously, mum and dad because sometimes the dynamics of the family is so broad. There's younger siblings at home, so both parents or neither parents have the opportunity to come out on a Sunday. Some parents have 2-3 jobs, so it's a lot going on. And when I sort of speak to a lot of those players, it's like, especially the ones that haven't gone on and pushed on, it was when they're doing well and they look across to the sideline, the validation is not there. And a lot of the other boys are able to give that extra 10% because someone's there to affirm what you're doing is, whether your execution of a pass, but it's still someone that that obviously is there to support you today. Go, wow, well done.
Yes.
And over time, when that happens over a long span of time, on top of sometimes as you're growing up as an adolescent, you're still trying to find who you are, and you may be acting out in certain ways within a structured environment, which football is. And then you move on, because that's the other part of it as well. Said player moves on from you. You might have catered to what he needs. He goes up a year age, and the coach in that age group, his skill set is different to yours. So that's why I'm asking the question, like, how do football clubs in the academies especially find a holistic approach to that aspect of identifying that those players may or may not need that extra coaching in terms of finding self?
I was gonna ask that question where, just what you were saying, and because obviously as a coach, you know the players quite well, or as a development youth development team. Do they ever feel a certain sense of responsibility for the players trying to come up, where clearly they see mum's not dropping them off, so they're coming with Charlie or John and John's parents, or they don't really have much interaction with the parents, as a coach. Do coaches and the coaching team ever feel like, I guess sometimes if the player is an exceptional talent, then the coaches probably will go the extra mile and say, nah, like, we need this player to get through. We're going to do everything we can to support him. You pick him up, you do this, we'll sort his food out, we'll sort his whatever out, whatever. But I guess generally speaking, would they, when they notice those things, do they feel a sense of responsibility to help them? That's like a social family, responsibility added into the coaching thing. Like, do they feel the responsibility there, or do they not? Do they think, well, we're just a football coach, we only take care of them when they're here, and it's kind of take a step back from that? Like, how do coaches feel about that?
That's both the questions or kind of things that you've shared there are like really good questions, and actually are probably one of the most cutting things that probably make the difference in some of the best environments. And don't get me wrong, I work within a particular environment, and obviously with certain people, so it's not like I've seen everywhere, but I would have heard stories about just little different stories about different places, and I would say the best the best places that I would feel, even being around them for a little bit, or some of the other teams that we play against, some of the feel you get are probably a few things, but the program, i.e., because football academies, it's a like a mini little football school.
Yeah.
And
Confirmed.
Like any school, it's first, not being funny, resources.
Yeah.
And people.
Yeah.
Buildings and stuff like that, you can probably make it work. Often,
yeah.
You've got enough pitches, or sometimes there's clubs that hire pitches, but bring some fantastic players through. So I would always go the people, the ideology, but what the people believe, and then the resources. And when the resources are there, I've seen environments, not naming no names, I've seen environments where there's the resources. So there's the budget to have safeguarding officer and an assistant, maybe.
Yeah.
A head of psychology.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. With in academies?
Yeah. So
I didn't even realise they hired stuff like that.
Yeah, because, I mean...
For the youth?
For the youth, yeah. So in I can't remember the date now, but 2008 or so, there was an overhaul in this country in terms of the Premier League putting in designated, you know how much the revenue of the Premier League is crazy. So then it gives them the clubs a great opportunity that a certain allocated amount of money is to go towards the academy. So that's what allows, in terms of the job roles, that professionalisation.
Is that the categories?
That's the whole category system that came in.
Okay.
So that's
so
how
if you're a certain category, you'll get obviously a higher...
Yes, you get a certain budget, but then you're expected to
deliver,
service, have certain roles, of course. They're producing the money.
Not giving the money for free, bro.
right. No, of course.
Yeah.
Makes
so
sense.
it's almost like a house, isn't it? The guy gives you the money to build a house, but he's saying for what I want the house to be able to do, it needs to have that room, that space, that blah blah. So the house can deliver what the idea is. Then it's who are the people? What is their perspective? Like any bit, like you work in your industry, what people are we going to get to try and execute what our beliefs are? So, and that's what sometimes, as you know, there would be poor crossover in that. Sometimes really good crossover.
Yeah.
I think from where I am, the best stuff has been when the people
align. With the ideology.
About their ideology. So it's just to give a kind of time, a trail on that. Scout has an appreciation for if players are flowers.
Yeah.
All the different types of seeds.
Oh, right.
So
they're passionate about that.
Yeah.
That's what I
roles and responsibilities.
Yeah. Roles and responsibilities. And also, like we're saying, identity and types. And that's not... if we not, that's people. We always jump to nationality as well, and or heritage, race. Yeah. Bro, we know that Henderson and Grealish, they're different types
of players,
but of
personality, people,
probably,
yeah.
You know, one guy's going to do a certain thing in a certain situation.
we see what Jackie Boy's on, bro.
And then those of us, that's how we talk in our group chats. We get really interested as to. Jackie moved like that all the time in every single life situation.
He had Mandem in his corner. Confirmed.
But
that didn't say Jordan Henderson didn't.
He didn't.
He might have a different type of Mandem.
So that's how I feel when the environment is. What are we trying to produce? It's so beautiful in a sense of. Well, we always go back to it. You have an opportunity to select talent and potential. Yeah. So you're making a prediction, basically. Nobody's taking a bad player. Unless it's whatever, but nobody's taking a bad player, expecting them to be bad, and want to keep them in the academy. No, it doesn't really make sense. So you're kind of making a prediction. I like this guy for something. It sounds a bit crazy because sometimes these kids are 8 years old.
It's true.
You can see though. You can see it. Like obviously, wasn't it long, but you know, I worked in a primary school, and obviously the playtime that you used to watch the kids play football. Some of them are really, and you know, just from a very low level outside, you know, non-professional football minded person, you could see the character of how people play and why they play the way they play at 8 to 10 years old early, and you can just see and, you know, already gauge what direction, you know, that you could predict that individual could go to, or what type of team that person would probably suit or fit, or style of play, or what, you know what I mean. So I understand. I get it. I understand.
Nah, because to add to that point is, what really me fascinated about this is that obviously when my brother was in said academy, there was a group of players there that even at the age of 9 and 10 were very mature. So but from talking to the players themselves and the guardian that was with them at the time, you then find out they do a lot of fending for themselves. So in match games, they're more mature because at home,
conditioning,
they're given responsibilities beyond their age. They might have to make a little bit of dinner, put a little chicken dippers in the oven for their younger siblings. So when you bring them on the football pitch and you're like, I'm being attacked by 3 or 4 players, I already know what I need to do. And those players now, already from a coach wouldn't understand why. They'll just look at, he's just got mad talent. Whereas actually he's actually not a normal 10-year-old.
Yes.
Because his home life is actually giving him the tools to able to operate on the football pitch at a mature level.
100. And so that what you just said is probably obviously a part of the roles, as I said, head of safeguarding, head of psychology, and then would have maybe people working. Not always a lot of people, but have people. Then they would link with the coaches, and every age group oftentimes will have 2 coaches. Whether they're full-time, part-time, that can change through the structure, but there'll be, you probably have 2 coaches, let's say 20 boys. So, 1 to 10 type of ratio or whatever. Now, what else can sometimes go along with that would be a head of coaching.
Okay.
That's one of the major roles that you have to have as well. And the idea of the head of coaching is to then work with the coaching workforce, in my opinion, linked with psychology and medicine and whatever, with what you're talking about there. Each of them is an individual organism, let's say, being with all these factors that are different of what side of town they come from, whether they have transport, do they have a siblings? I don't know the numbers, but it makes sense. You experience it. There will be there's a higher proportion of younger siblings, i.e. 2nd, 3rd or 4th down the line, being good at sport. Simple. When they come out, they've got an example of an older, and then they can go up against them. Yeah. So they're basically always training up, as it were. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? From
to be fair, that Shandon, like at 16.
Yeah, because obviously he was playing with Usman in the past.
Yeah. So
so it's really things. So the head of coaching and the kind of then as actors, as the coaches, as the people that's trying to take care of these kids, it's almost the question is what's going to make the most difference individually, generally, collectively, and almost how can we help? What can we do about it? So then we agree. Let's say a Ravel Morrison example. Yeah. Man United knew. And even Jesse Lingard, which his was more physical. Yeah. But they were like, well, if it's a flower, you have to take care of it until it blooms or looks or how you want it.
Yeah, facts.
Fergie apparently from minute 1, they said, this kid's going to be good, but maybe not till 23.
But is that, so in that instance, as you come down the pyramid, is resources plays a huge, because at what point, because
has to be.
Football is still football. I don't want anyone sort of get it misconstrued that we're here sort of talking naive. Like, it's about economics. There's an economical factor in this. And sooner or later, it's about the talent as well. So as much as it's on coaches to have a safeguarding aspect to their job, is if my man's not a good enough footballer in said environment at that time, we can't just be here going... So,
but again, it's probably.
So my point I was trying to get at is, United might have the leverage to give that player more time because of the resources there, whereas another club might have to
cut their losses.
And go again.
And you're spot on. And
like a Burnley, for instance. You don't have the budget to have a big wide academy.
So you're looking for those that are stuff, ready-made in terms of.
So Burnley
in a certain way,
Burnley would probably sell him at like 20.
Yeah.
Get pretty good money for him and reinvest that in the club. Do you know what I mean? But then he could go on to become almost like a high level than Burnley. But at the time, Burnley couldn't. Yes. They couldn't wait for him to get there. They'd rather say, let's take our money now.
Because the demand, the ideology there at the club might be, we need
that's interesting.
Players who are ready to deal with the dynamics or the rigidness that Sean Dyche operates at. Because there's certain thing I was speaking to and I was like, certain players in the modern game might not deal being there.
So
because of how he operates that setup up there.
We played a 23s game against Burnley, and I watched the game. Obviously, I was 23s. I've never seen 3 tackles in a row.
Yeah.
On a football pitch like it.
That's crazy.
Oh my word.
The way the guy contacted the ball.
Yeah.
It echoed, boom,
boom.
But 3 in a row. One guy hit somebody, the next guy it was like
but
they were
first
perfectly timed.
Yeah.
And exactly what you're saying, the club identity or the club ideology means that there's certain entry point
you have to make.
That you have to make. It's like going to the Marines.
Basically, Because even Sean Dyche talks about making sure if a player doesn't say good morning in the hallway, you stop and goes,
little environment.
What's going on? But on the flip side, said player might have just had something that went on at home, and he's just.
And he doesn't get to grow that.
He's just trying to get through the day.
He's trying to get through the day, and you're saying to him about saying morning. So it's all swings and roundabouts, isn't it? And just people. So I don't want anyone getting the misconstrued that we don't know what we're talking about or we're trying to be.
100%.
Conversation.
And the identity thing isn't always about. It's linked to performance. Massively. It's massively. So it's partly obviously there's a baseline of safeguarding, but then obviously as well for me, if somebody's going to be the best of something. It's oftentimes got to be certain bits of it fairly natural to them.
Yes,
it's being the best of that
of their type.
Of you.
Yeah,
like how do we get because again, and you know I don't really like using these examples, but you have to look at the people like the legends of like Fergie and Wenger.
Yeah,
where they knew the individual players they had, they knew the personalities and they knew the talents. Yeah. Fergie knew Cantona was a bit of a wild card.
Yeah.
But he knew he steps into that room, he steps into that that dressing room, puts his collar up, everyone's like, what's he putting his collar up for? Goes on the pitch, wins you the game. How many times?
That's why he did.
Earns the respect. So again, it's balancing and understanding what is the mix of the dressing room I have and who do I know is going to make the biggest impact and how can I ensure that they make the biggest impact? Yeah. Like Roy Keane, I'm sure in the dressing room would be arguing with everyone every day, every minute, but
grind certain,
grind certain gears. But you know,
but I think with the first, once you get to the first team, I think it's slightly different because
could be
at youth level, is about creating products, not necessarily one for the first team, and 2, how can we maximize economically from said players. Yeah. So it's kind of you don't really sort of get to feel too comfortable in a youth setup because there's always chances you're going to get cut. Yeah, there's always constant movement. So I think once you get to the first team changing room, you're sort of there. You're on a nice contract. You're able then to sort of be yourself. I think at youth level, you're still always, should I be myself? Because if I'm myself too much, the coach might be like, right, you're too confident. Yeah. Like there's so much going on in young players because really and truly, your first professional contract is the one. It's your driver's license basically. Yeah. Up until then, like imagine you hang out and imagine your dad obviously and I'm going to learn my driving with him. Yeah. First thing I'm bouncing key and he'd be like, what did you do?
Stick to the basics.
You're just moving too loose. You know what I'm saying? So. That's why I said the first professional contract is really the driver's license. Yeah. Once you get that, you can sort of relax. I'm certified to do this now. And where you go is really dependent on the work you put in. And
it's a massive thing of appreciation. Mm-hmm. Appreciation of some places they like all different types. Yeah, and they appreciate it because they appreciate it. They basically get the right. They try to get the right system. Yeah. To try to grow those types. Yeah. Some of them they do really well. Mm-hmm. Others they don't so well, based on a general thing. Other places go, forget types 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. These 3.
Yeah. That's the only ones we want.
And that's the only ones that we want based on this business, not just business, but ideology, then business model.
It's like competencies, isn't it? I mean, I guess you've been in a hiring position at work. Yeah. Where, you've probably got certain competencies and traits that you look for in different roles in the business. Mm-hmm. These type of people need to have these 3 things, and it's the same thing. When I've done hiring, like they look at like when you're on the phone, you're pretty much doing a pre-interview without them really knowing. You're just asking certain questions about their experience, how they've dealt with this, what they've done, and I'd say I understand that about trying to find those key attributes or key kind of characteristics that they're after.
But here's a question as a coach. At what point do you switch off your unconscious bias? Because you're someone that, obviously, we all like a certain brand of football. So, being a coach, you can't always you have to sort of switch that off and And how do you guys go about doing that? Yeah,
I think that's hard
because if I'm a coach and I'm working in an environment and I see a young don that drops it left, I'm like, I don't care what no one else is doing there. I'm like, he's the one.
You're right. Because
so how do you guys go about as coaches switching that off? Because you guys are still football people outside of the footballing work lifestyle. So how do you switch that unconscious bias off?
Follow-up question to that. Have you ever really vouched for a player?
Yeah.
Where they're like, Cubs, you know, we've got to let this one go. You're like, no, do not. Trust me. Like, do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, and this is what
stuck your neck out for certain.
Yeah, these combos are really nice to kind of think about, because you realise what an opportunity it is doing coaching, because you especially where at Reading, we had a great dynamic at one time where, don't get me wrong, ours made it tough, but we were the age group coach of the ages of, let's say, under 9 all the way to, let's say, under 12.
Yeah.
We're the age group coach, so we're taking the academy signed boys that have going through their pathway.
Yeah.
But then we also did, and X does this as well, the shadow squad. So that one, there's a lot of movement of people just coming in, trialing for a few weeks, seeing if they can get into the main group to trial. So we had great practice every week. All right, there's 4 new players, or 5 new players coming in, well, from where? And even on the, we played the computer games, on the information sheet, mad, when you're talking about identity, biases and blah, 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 like job interviews.
Yeah.
Look at the names.
Yeah, in fact.
You get interesting.
When you get Rio Gonzalez Higuain, let's say, coming in to trial, and he's 10 years old. Who's he played for before? He played for Wembley Lions. Or okay, so he's in West London. We know the leagues are blah, blah, kind of competitive.
Wembley's north, but all right.
So
Northwest.
So yeah,
the postcode.
So, do you know what I mean? And he's coming over to Reading to trial. Okay, you're getting a picture. As soon as the kid walks in the building, what do? You look at him. I'm being honest with you. You go, well, how athletic do I think he could be?
Yeah.
What type of athleticism? And I think that's where, again, I enjoy the most, because I've always believed in variety.
Yes.
And we know the game. There's 5'6", genius, Messi being number 1. And then there's Haaland.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. So then for me, straight away, I don't need to be told again
profiles
that there's all types of profiles. Look at Busquets. I saw him doing a recovery run in the game the other day, where I said, I swear, train my mum up for a little bit long, a little bit of time. She could make pace. How he was moving was, because obviously he's got older as well.
Yeah.
But control the tempo of a game like he's playing a piano.
Quite a lot.
So then...
and also, sorry, not to cut you, he plays a role that, in England, man would say...
It's unfashionable.
He needs to be more...
Yeah, it's unfashionable.
Hit more. And he actually plays a deep line screen.
It's not respected.
It's interesting,
it's not as respected or appreciated enough in the British...
Yeah. So that's an idea. That's an identity thing.
Yeah.
And then that's a thing. But... yeah, it's for us to get a feel, because of you saying about bias.
Yeah,
it's harder. Sorry, it's harder to be biased.
Yeah.
When you are trying and you have the thing of, what would I do if this one was my son? What if that one was my son?
Yeah.
If that one was my son. What if that one was my son? And if the people in the place, from the lady that deals with the transport, from the guy that books in the whatever, the coaches, if everybody's trying to behave like we're all dads and uncles, trying to, you can't always do that.
You can't, even
in, I don't know, we read the old books. There's been families where you know that son has got the biggest chance of making the most money for the family.
Yeah, facts.
What happens? The rest of the family make sure that son is protected.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. That becomes hard because it's not everybody's son. That dad says, "Well, is my son getting that? What that guy's getting? Is my son?"
And you're like,
and
not really.
So, do you know what I mean? Sometimes it has to be
true.
Sometimes, and I probably haven't been in positions where I have to do this that much, but sometimes parents will need to be reminded. Hold on a minute. You were selected for this.
Yeah.
And you asked to be, you accepted.
Yeah. So that's the other side.
This isn't just school.
Everyone
just come now.
It wasn't like kindergarten, then primary, and then... this is a selection process with you.
That must be.
Sometimes we forget. It's not easy.
That must be a difficult conversation.
That's what I'm saying to you. Especially the parents.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes as well, you see something in the kid and you want to say, and you sometimes have to say, I think he feels there's too much pressure on him.
Yeah.
And then you unravel the thing of where do you think the pressure's coming from?
His dad wanted to kick ball.
And you're telling the dad, you might need to chill out a bit.
Yeah, relax. I've seen that. Yeah, yeah. Go for a walk, mate.
Yeah.
Nah, because he's on the sidelines, like
I think
kicking every ball.
I think I told you before where there's that documentary I watched. It's not on BT Sport no more, but it's called
No Hunger in Paradise.
No Hunger in Paradise.
Yeah.
Brilliant documentary, and it talks about all of this stuff. Expectations of the parents getting to kids getting to 16 and them not getting that contract because the family has worked collectively so hard and have like devoted so much time to try and waiting for that player to get the contract, and then they don't, and the player's like, what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? Parents got full-time jobs. He was who was that player? Was it Eze? Who did Eze get released by?
I think he's been around a bit. I think he got released to Arsenal.
He was playing at Tesco. He was working at Tesco before he went to.
He tried at Reading. He went to a few, and then he obviously
gone to QPR.
That's it. Went to QPR. So it's like, what is that an example of? Obviously, he's probably a different example, but he went straight to Tesco. Like he didn't. He was dependent on the football, almost you could say, to for his career. Yeah. And so I guess it is a tough, when that reality hits, if the thing ain't there no more.
It relates to before we've talked about it before, but then that's where if the club is going by what is written about itself, that's where the safeguarding bit, if you're really good,
comes into it.
But families are aware that this is the road. The road stops at a certain point. Yeah. Even if you make it to the first team. Yeah. That's a really good one for me to give the perspective of. Even if it goes great, you go and play 100 games in the first team. Do you know what's going to happen? 6 other badges going to say, come and play for us. So you are going to leave. Yeah. Even if, you know what I mean? So some people are going to leave earlier.
And after 100 games, the family have developed an affinity to that football club.
Sometimes, yeah.
And depending on the dynamics, they can have an influence on said player in terms of, but you're comfortable here. Yeah. Why would you want to...
That's identity too, isn't it?
You know what I'm saying? Like, why do you want to move? Like, they like you. Everything works for you here, and that's where a lot of players sometimes just are able to stay at our club because everything in the facet works. Like families is that's why you hear the stories of my family was Evertonians as well. Like it just was natural fit. It was a dream for me to play here. Yeah, and as long as I give 100% week in week out, stay fit, stay here, I see no point in moving.
And then maybe the type of player they are as well. Financially, them going elsewhere is the same.
It's the same, yeah.
Really, so yeah.
So it's interesting. But here's a question. In terms of, I'd like to ask, obviously, not to sort of dwell on it too much, but when we see what's obviously transpired from England not winning the Euros, see what's happened to Sancho, Saka, Marcus Rashford.
Let's go.
And even before that, you see the treatment of Raheem Sterling in the media. Even going far as back in the Premier League when he was that game at Stamford Bridge, where you just see the venom in that geezer's face, and it come to light in the papers what he said. Like, if you're a young black player at City, coming through, doing your thing, like all the stars are aligning. You make it to the first team. You have dual heritage. Yeah. Jamaica, Ghana, wherever that may be. And you ask Raheem Sterling, should I play for England? What should his be response? And we're speaking hypothetically.
Yeah, this is like a football.
I don't know Raheem. I think he's a great footballer. I think he's a great example as a young man. And even more so as a black young man, I think he does exceptional on the pitch, off the pitch, and what he does for his family. Sure. But realistically, what does he say to said footballer?
So if I'm Raheem Sterling, I'm honestly saying to him, it really depends on you. And this is one of the points I was going to raise today was, I think I guess you could say native British people or English people fail to realise that being British means different things to different people.
That's true.
Raheem Sterling feels English and British because he came here at 7 years old and he grew up opposite to Wembley, loving and playing football in and around his neighbourhood. His version of Britain is multicultural.
Yeah. Being from Northwest.
Infused with his West Indian culture.
Yeah.
And enjoying and enjoying the spoils of his neighbourhood.
Yeah.
That's what being British and English hit to him.
Facts.
So for him, he's happy to play for England.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know at what age he realised that not everyone would accept him as an English person, but I don't think he really cared, because to him, he felt English, he felt British from his experience. And I think that a lot of native English or British people think being English means one thing, which is
certain things,
or certain traits, which is really false. Because if you actually look at the dynamics of England, being a Liverpoolian British person, it's completely different. To being a Yorkshire British person, which is completely different to being a Black Country. What's the word? Midlands, Wolverhampton person.
Yeah, Essex.
So they get so confused. They get so confused and think people that are in the King's Speech, that's what being English is.
Yeah,
Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Queen's English. I'm just like, no. It's like, this country is so dynamic and diverse, even with the native English people, that you can't pigeonhole what being English or British is to one type or a couple of types, because that's not what it is.
You can't.
Even in the England team, you got, what's his name? I think, is Henderson from Sunderland, or was it? Maybe from the northeast. You know, the England team have always had people from different parts of the country.
Different dynamics.
So when Raheem Sterling is saying he is English and he feels English, when Marcus Rashford is saying even their experience is different. Marcus Rashford grew up in Manchester.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his experience. He speaks a completely different accent, and you can even go into that if you really want to. So if I'm Raheem Sterling and I'm talking to this youngster, I'm saying, look, it really depends. Like, if you feel your experiences and you feel comfortable identifying as being a English or British person, then play for England. Fair. If you don't, and some of the experiences or stuff that you see doesn't give you that affiliation, then don't. Then play for your place of heritage. And I think, you know, ultimately it's like, make your decision and be proud and happy with whatever decision you make. Like,
that's it.
The amount of the, you know, kind of the Black British community have said how proud they are of being English and being Black and being British, you know, and supporting the, you know, the Black players because they feel the same. It means a lot. It means a lot to them.
Facts.
And that's kind of how I see it. And I think let's not underestimate how diverse it means to be a British English person in this country.
It goes back to the history of the country, innit? My man was out here sailing to Tom, Dick and Harry, bro. So what's going to be the knock-on effect of that? You've gone everywhere, bro. Set up place, whether you done it legally, illegally, however you want to cut the cake when it's sliced, but you've done all those things. So the natural makeup of the country is going to be very diverse.
Absolutely.
And if you didn't want that, you know what you got to do.
Yeah.
Release the things back to yard.
And I guess on top of that as well, I guess the more native English people, because they are native to the country, you could say, you know, heritage-wise, they feel
native. If they looked into it as well, sometimes they're not.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. They feel they have the right to label who is and who isn't, and pick and choose who is and who isn't. Again, that's another problem, because you don't get to choose if I or Raheem Sterling is allowed.
It's allowed to be British. No,
you don't get to choose that. There's no legality outside of your passport. There's no like legal document or test or exam that everyone has to pass. I mean, obviously, if you lived there for a long time, you have to do the thing for your British passport. But that's a different subject.
Life in the UK test, man.
Well, that's it. So they need to stop thinking that they have, I guess, power in telling people you are not English.
Yeah.
I guess that's, again, a good different conversation, but that kind of needs to tone down a lot in the thing.
I would clap that.
But that's what it is. You can't tell me that I'm not allowed to be British.
And what Rash has just kind of gone through there. Have you noticed how, again, where our media currently is?
Yeah.
He's been able to open that up in minutes. And kind of lead us some ways we could go. Yeah. To try to, in my opinion, reconcile some things and allow certain things. There's other things to talk about.
Facts. Yeah, but
now media just keeps the thing on such a babyish, hurtfully surface level that the certain cutting questions that would get you to it. What part of the story do we want to talk about as to what British is?
You know what I'm saying?
Like, once we open up and unpick some things, it gets a lot less complicated.
I'm saying, it's like a banana, isn't it? You want the brown bit or the ripe bit at the top?
You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? So then once we start looking into it, as
bro, that's what it is, isn't it? You can peel a banana and top looks lovely, and then you start getting to the bottom.
They only want to focus on that bit at the top.
That's it.
They don't want to start uncovering the rest of it.
For someone like Raheem and the pros, exactly as he said, every human life is a generational opportunity. It's a generational game. That's all we are. We move on, we go, and then the next lot do what they do. So I saw Brazil playing last night, and obviously we were into the music, so we're just everybody's got especially when you're into football. Brazil holds a certain thing. Obviously, then when you look back into the history of Brazil, why skin tone? What is the music, dance, the beach? What is all that? What influences have brought all of that together?
Yeah.
And then I'll ask myself
everywhere.
But then I ask myself the question. We're not from Brazil, so there probably would be internal things like there are in other countries that we may not be really aware of. But I was like, what is it? I asked myself, what is it to them to feel Brazilian? How do they behave in terms of their Brazil culture of football? Just in the football circle. We know that carries something. That they roll a particular way. Say, to use that. The Italians.
I'm going to follow up with that with once
the Italians roll a particular way based on again some historical things, battles they fought, battles they've won and lost, and then it brings that together. So again, if you go back to somewhere like England, even look at how England is different to Scotland.
Yeah.
But England and Scotland had some certain differences. So not to go into it too deep, because I think what Rash said,
perfect.
It's perfect. But it's just to look into England, and then once you open the story of what is England, and who's contributed, and who's been involved, and how has it kind of got to here, then you can look at it from a sporting point of view,
why man can't be doing what they're doing,
and for a player,
after a man missed a penalty.
For a young player with dual, exactly that. It's dual.
Yeah.
Look at England and look at the other one too.
That's also true. Yeah.
And see how they look.
Yeah.
What the opportunities are of one. Let's be real, because what comes in the game as well. England's profile means an agent or a family member.
Yeah. So a lot that comes with it.
Sorry, if you do well when you play for England for X amount of time, the guy's telling me that's £3 million.
Yeah.
If you go and play for X, you might even be out of pocket. The flight's this.
Yeah.
Where are you going to be playing?
The facilities.
And that's another thing I'd say. You know, if I was Raheem son, I'll say, look, that, and to be honest, you know, if I was a professional player, I would play for England as well, above my heritage of Sierra Leone. And one of the big reasons is literally what he was saying about the financial and economical.
We were talking about that on Sunday though, but because some of the African nations are on par in terms of profile, bro.
And what the potential
is. Yeah, like you can't say in terms of profile, Ivory Coast, for example, is on the same profile of England in terms of the players that's historically just played for the Ivory Coast. Drogba was revered in England, bro.
Yes.
I think.
But go on.
What I mean, you said you get $3 million.
And even some of the
I just threw a number out there. I'm saying I think with endorsements and
endorsements and everything that comes with it, I think financially and economically is kind of where I'm getting at. Where I'm not sure it equates to the same.
I hear that. It doesn't.
But what I'm the point I'm trying to make is changing, especially the players with the dual national, it's changing the perceptives. So at least when they're making a choice, they're doing it for the right reasons. So it's not a case of I'm doing this because it makes more sense, just purely on one area. It's like actually, if you look at a Ghana, for instance, now with Hudson-Odoi is now chose to play for, like on the world stage, even at a World Cup, look at the performance of certain African nations. They go further than England, bro. So how can you say like the profile is bigger here versus there? I just think people need to understand the decisions that they're making and make it from a perspective where you've put both on the scales and you're going pros here, cons there, pros here, and then go on and make it. Because at the end of the day, we see these men don't love you, bro.
Yeah, man, they don't.
But it's getting the balance right. and placing. That's what's beautiful about sport, placing it into its context, and then that's how I am. So I'm a bit biased in this area. Look ahead a little bit and see what's possible, because even when we're talking internationally, that's in one game. Obviously, FIFA do what FIFA do, but you know us. We've always been into the music, enjoying ourselves where we can, blah, blah, blah. I said it to my brother, and I would say it. Told him, we talk about the Champions League, and we all hold that music. But then you look into history, and we do it. We look into colonialism, what that means. To me, I was born in Ghana.
Yeah.
So I've been benefited from being within this cultural kind of climate. Grown up in England in certain ways, benefited loads in certain ways. Maybe lost out on some other things, like you're saying. But all in all, am I happy with my lot? Yes, I am.
Facts.
Then I go, what's the opportunity for somewhere like Ghana, for how Africa serves the world?
Yes.
In terms of resources, both in the ground and human. Wouldn't it be beautiful to be able to have let's say, an African version, an South American version, obviously China and they're doing their thing. Everybody be able to express themselves on a stage that we know people would want to watch.
Yeah, facts.
So that, to me, but at the same time, a young player says to me, yeah, but Cubs, as a coach, you're talking all that. How long's that going to take?
I'm saying,
bro, that's a 50-year, bro.
No, that's it. And that's long term. And that's the
thing.
That's
a 50-year. So but some your brother or somebody in the climb may look at him and go, okay, it's 50-year, but I might want to start the first 5. Because the flip side, and then that's where sometimes the advice from an agency point of view and stuff, I guess the guys that are good at it will go, well, let's weigh it up. Okay, cool. How good do you think you are? Let's be real. I think that's a clear. Who are you going to play ahead of, or have to play ahead of to play for England?
That's true. That is true.
And actually, thought map it.
Yeah.
And then the same way, don't underestimate the other. Let's say it's a lesser nation. Who you going to need to play ahead of?
Yeah.
And you weigh it up, and then you might make a real career pathway. But like you said, once you
and that's an honest conversation at the end of the day. And that's what I'm saying. When you have to weigh it up like that, because it's not a case of, because I see a couple of things like on Twitter. When Hudson-Odoi made the switch, it's like, he just chose them because he couldn't get into it. I don't think it's that. I just think it could be. I don't know. I think there's multiple reasons.
Like you said,
multiple reasons. Yeah, like he might have gone because I think he went out there on holiday initially and just felt the love, like went everywhere and people are showing him. Whereas he's not getting that here. Same way with Zaha, like. He was like at a point in time where certain players you think, right, how is my man playing ahead of him in the England squad or getting calls up, and he was like, decided to go. And again, I think it was similar when they felt the warmth from the nation and think, actually, this represents what I get in my household when I'm back in. And
I'm gonna weird it out a little bit and bring some parts together. Yeah, because to me, we were at school. After you do the sport part, and then let's say you go down the hall and cross over to another discipline of, let's say, sociology, or philosophy. Question: what is sport for? Yeah, because that's the only thing that comes in after. Because once the winning and losing and whatever is done, then the Rashford bit comes into the social part of what could be possible.
Yes,
and it's a weird question to ask, but Hudson-Odoi, you can't. Some people don't want this question and wouldn't want to take on that kind of responsibility. Yeah. But which nation needs me more? Yeah. It sounds like an ego.
No, that's an interesting concept.
It sounds like
where can I make the most?
Where can I make
the most impact? Yeah.
Whether that's on a field, off the field. Do I even want that?
Yeah. Again, that's the choice, isn't it?
That's the choice aspect of it, isn't it?
Because you don't want the guy that says, "Oh, that's the noble path." And then really he was never wanted that. Yeah, he was
just collecting the bag. It goes back to what Cheryl was saying about the scale. And putting both sides on the scale and saying, as an individual, what are you going to be most satisfied with? Yeah. When you walk on that pitch, when you wear that shirt, when you kiss the badge, what are you going to be most satisfied with as an individual? Yeah. As a player. Yeah. As a professional. What do you? Who do you feel is going to represent you that represents you the most out of these two? And I think. It's all valid questions.
And it's mad.
So I had a question for you, Cobbs, actually, and I hope this aligns with the topic. So I haven't got the data for this, so you have to forgive me if I'm way off. but I guess on the surface, it seems as though there's been I don't know if it's an increasing number, but I guess we're noticing it a bit more. There's a high number of players in the youth academy systems across the nation that are coming from mixed and more African and Caribbean backgrounds. You know, if you look at compared to generations before,
although there still were quite a strong representation, but yeah.
So it's more than one question, really. Do you feel that in order to not just relate to, but either get the best out of or have figures within the sporting game to support and, you know, build relationships with, do they need to be of similar or same background?
Get me in trouble, bro.
No, I'm just saying. Would it help?
Yeah, I understand.
I'm not saying these players not going to get bad development. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you know, I don't know. It's like a job, right? If I go in a job and there's more and more people of African and Caribbean descent, but you look at all the managers and all the leadership, and you're like, none of them are. You know, it would help that there would be some leaders and managers in there that are of a certain, you know, or similar backgrounds, because it's almost like they can understand your story a little bit more and you know, maybe relate to you in a certain way that other people can't. Again, I don't want to I don't want to make this a race thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And again, you know, does it go back to the kind of traditional English football culture and historical football culture where there hasn't been a lot of opportunities for you know, people, even ex-pros of certain backgrounds and ethnicities to build a career in coaching? Does it go back to that? And again, you know, does it also relate to how those traditional native English coaches view coaching and view development and view looking after the academy? You know, maybe if there's I'm not saying maybe if there's more people like Kruger, you'll get a different output or a different, you know, expression of certain players. Or if there, I don't know any other coaches in Reading. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Whopper.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if there was a higher number or more opportunities or more coaches of a variety of different backgrounds, is that good to help aid the youngsters coming through, developing, and also give a different perspective to how to coach and why they should coach certain things? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yes, you've loaded the questions right.
I have.
But if I had to be not like straight, yes, is what I would say. But the reason, obviously, we've spoken on these because
I can imagine there's a certain type of.
But don't assume.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I say I can imagine there's a certain type of culture or style,
I think,
or expectation or things like that come with the native English traditional mindset. But I don't know if that's changing.
So
Brendan Rodgers gone abroad, Spain, Italy, and learned this thing. So I don't know, innit? I'm just
So we can dive into what you've said, where we've actually even experienced it in this town in Reading.
Right.
To a point where that might be a different combo, but in my opinion, the England we saw at these Euros and even the World Cup before is symptomatic of what the football clubs have been doing. Not deep, in my opinion, not super deep cultural stuff, but there's definitely been a greater appreciation in the last, probably even after Shep's time, in the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years.
That's a long time. Or fairly.
Yeah, definitely. Again, with the EPP stuff and blah, blah, blah. In the last 10 years, and it's coincided with, not because of this, but in the timing of Abramovich, Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah, because of what Chelsea, in my opinion, as a template. Because remember the amount of years they went in a row where they're winning Youth Cup.
Oh my days!
But then look at the DNA of those.
But if you look at their teams,
not being
funny,
proper long-legged, overgrown
brothers.
And they get man in trouble.
And even Arsenal. I think Chelsea and Arsenal were the two at one point.
Look at the successful younger sides of England. Look at the DNA of those.
Because of the academy.
So okay.
So not that was the trigger, but the academy system. Yeah. Like you said, Chelsea, Arsenal. What's in their area? Because what is football about? Again, for certain people, it's about
tribalism.
Community talent. Every player comes from a community.
Yeah.
because we're human beings, right? So we're growing out of families that have a background.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, right, if you're in South London and there's Charlton, there's Crystal Palace, but also in South London, there's a high proportion of people from Jamaica, Ghana, Nigeria, and other Caribbean nations,
countries,
blah, blah. Your community has a certain demographic, family, blah, blah, and things that come with it. So then, it goes back to one of the questions you asked earlier. Unless you're, in my opinion, a little bit naive or stupid, that kid comes from said environment.
Yeah, facts.
Don't get me wrong. We had a boy come through, blah, blah, Caversham based, black guy, Caribbean. But these are the nuances that, again, certain clubs, I don't want to name clubs, but certain clubs have got really interested in. So that's all you ask for. Sometimes, again, it's people want the jump to be 6 jumps in one.
Yeah.
People have got interested in. So I've had coaches ask me from my English background, do you know, let's say a kid's from Jamaica, do you guys eat the same food?
Have they approached you that?
Cool. Yeah.
I like, just to let you know, I like that openness.
Yeah.
I appreciate that openness, because at least that you're trying...
Seek to understand.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And recognising and not being... Because also this country's been paralysed, again, by people, like, not to get too deep, it's not everybody in the society. Certain people right at the top. Yeah. They paralyse everybody to not be able to speak about it and be afraid to... Even so now, you got a friend, or you got somebody that you work with, and that's where how I maybe am and what I believe in. I'll be trying to be you saw me at school. I'll be quite open. I'll be quite expressive for who I feel I am, but I'll also let you in. So ask me a question, but I'll share as well.
Yeah.
And so then the thing opens up because what I love about the sport is we all appreciate that this kid has something of value.
Yes.
And so that's a great start. That's a great start. But then having people around that may be from the exact same heritage or may not, but they understand it. You see, when you watch obviously I don't know the background and how it's happened in America, but when you watch certain NBA or USA based basketball documentaries, and there are white guys, I don't know their background, they might be from the South, wherever they're from, or New York, but they can go into the deepest areas of the hood and they can bring the ballers forward, or they're in the environment. They have a connection in whatever way. They maybe pull a kid, look, see that part of the neighborhood. I know what that part of the neighborhood's about. I spoke to your mum about it the other way, blah, blah, blah. And you see it, sometimes it's a little bit dressed up in the film.
Yeah.
But it all the kid gets is, one, I think you might care, or you might either have enough time to care that you think, even if it's for your own ends, you think I'm of value.
Fact.
That's got some value to it. So I think you need the references. And I think the biggest thing is have the appreciation, man. If you can get people around that care about young people, because I think that sometimes as well, football clubs, when they get the resources, get people that care about young people. You can learn the football.
First and foremost. that's what.
Generally, not the coaches obviously have to go through your badges. But
yeah.
As an environment, and that's what you're talking about. Imagine we're doing something football-wise. If you came around, if you were around, you got Malik, you're going to see certain things. And you remember when we was young, the first time you came to my house, and now I'm cooking in the kitchen. You was almost like, oh, he definitely is
references,
African.
Bro. It is like man's got plastic on the thing, bro. It's like this is like my yard. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm relaxed.
So the environment, it's also you do well if you open up space and safety for families to come in.
That's it.
And express.
That's it.
So then we'll get to know you. Portuguese, they do that, but and jokes and build that rapport.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's the best team.
Yeah. Because the reason I ask is because obviously, like I said, from an outside perspective, it seems like there is an increasing number of young kids from these backgrounds entering these youth academy teams. So I'm just curious as to
how that's working.
Yeah, the dynamics of that when they go into these academies. I'm not saying, again, it's me speculating because I haven't got the data.
And also, we've got data from when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
Which is when we're not.
Again, this is a very, very, very basic example, but i.e., our sixth form football team.
Yes.
Sheldon would never play ahead of someone like Matt Madders, and in terms of football ability, it wasn't a question who had more ability, but in terms of
Perception.
in terms of what the coach saw in what he wanted to do, he preferred someone like that.
Yeah.
Man didn't like to train, man. That's all it was. Nah, me.
I don't know if we're allowed to name drop him. Maybe we have to slur them words out, but those names out. But that's what I'm saying is like, you know, are these coaches? There's a high number of them getting churned out. You know, these ethnic boys. I just hope these coaches are recognizing that and appreciating and trying to learn. Or if not, are there enough a variety of coaches who can understand and appreciate that change?
Obviously, yeah.
And develop them in.
But I think in
to.
society anyway. If you look, I mean, for those of us that, all of us that work in any working environment now, like if you've worked for said company for a long time, you see that diverse training now is at the forefront of every email. Like HR now are making sure whether or not they believe in the diversity aspect of the
whether or not they believe in
because some man do tick box,
more policy.
but it's more, like it's in policy now. Like I was a colleague of mine asked me to review a colleague handbook from what they've just rewritten versus their old one, and diversity now is in the contents page is like the third thing.
What year are we in?
2021.
Oh, right. Okay.
Whereas before it's number 15 in the book, bro.
Right,
it's now number 3.
Yeah.
So whether or not that is
and then it's
for
now
PR,
what do we do with that?
So do you know again from the business?
So that's it. So everyone's at least
it's in the convo.
It's in a conversation, like
so in the business world, throughout the pandemic and you know everything, the number one most hired role,
HR.
Not even that.
There you go then.
DNI officer.
There you go, DNI officer.
So now they're saying, is there now room in the C level? So you've got the CHRO, you've got the CIO.
Yeah.
What is that? Sorry for people out there.
Chief Human Resources Officer. So basically, the chief is the top person that looks after that branch in a company. So Chief HR Officer, Chief Information Officer. That's anything to do with IT and info and data. You've got this Chief Technology Officer, Chief Executive Officer. So that's the CEO. That's the top guy. He's CFO, Chief Financial. But now they're saying, should there be a Chief CDO, a Chief Diversity Officer?
There you go.
So that's a conversation.
Well, who's that person? Who's qualified to do that, bro?
That's a great. That's the follow. And that's the follow up question. That's the follow up question.
Because I don't know. You're not about to tell me.
How do you qualify someone? Because all it will be is they'll just promote another senior manager. Oh, do you mind just doing this? And he's had no experience. He or she has had no experience doing that.
What is the thing for?
So again, the structure.
What's the purpose?
The structure of a DNI team is still being defined.
Yeah, because
in the business world right
realistically,
now. It's late.
It's too late. It's too late. Charlie's been busting the KFC jokes for time, bro. He's been doing that for time. So the black man in the office, like, yeah, what's for lunch today? KFC.
You know what I mean? So I haven't yet come across someone that's become a CDO. I've just read reports and read different articles that have talked about, is that the next big role of because what people have said was, the 2008 financial crash was the chief financial officer's problem.
Facts.
But COVID, pandemic, and obviously the thing is now the CHRO's problem.
So how do we keep the workforce PC basically?
But yeah, exactly.
Interesting. All I say when it comes to that, anyone working in the workforce, you see the person to the left, the person to the right, speak to them. If someone new comes into the office, seek to understand where that person. That's all it is. We talk about everything else. Race should not be a subject that is just like this taboo thing.
Yeah, people take it too much as a taboo.
If you seek to understand someone, trust me, the information will be readily available to you. That's all that needs to happen in any office, up and down.
But in order to do that, you have to have the humility.
To
accept that you as an individual
might not have all the answers.
Yeah, and not the authority of it. And that takes a lot. That's a subconscious thing deep down.
Subconscious bias.
And that takes a lot for people to do, to realise and come to this kind of realization that I'm not at the top of the food chain. And why should I feel and think that I should be at the top of the food chain, regardless of...
It's privilege, isn't it?
That's it. So, again, we're a long way from that. So, another thing that me and Shell spoke on before this about identity was, I guess, professional players. And again, I don't know how much you've seen this. Yeah. And again, it ties ties a lot with the coaching, but in terms of like, have we gone past the stage where, again, coaching, managers, even fans, pundits, they look at the Aaron Lennons, Sean Wright-Phillips, Theo Walcott, fairly similar profile players, fairly similar attributes, you know, technically and physically.
Fast and cross.
No end product. I was going to say it has.
Because man was going to work as well still.
Yeah, facts.
Have we moved on from that era of looking at a certain profile of a player from a certain ethnic background, per se, perhaps?
I spoke on this the other day.
Really?
No, just something we mentioned.
Interesting. To say, they're only this. They're only this.
I think
they're not very intelligent.
Wings.
Yeah.
Plays in a wing.
Or up front.
So that was
Jermaine Defoe is probably one of the prime examples of someone who could have been, in my opinion, literally a superstar, all-rounded more player. But again, because of profile, coached, managed into a smaller category.
To be his high qualities.
It's even when we were at uni, the stacking, the theory in the books, blah blah. Because obviously, what England also gets from definitely a marketing perspective is they always follow America.
Yeah.
In terms of how sports tend to go.
Do
you know what I mean? It just kind of sponsorship, coverage, money. You know, it kind of follows that. So you get
from salary cap.
You get to different dynamics, but you get to see. And obviously, that was something that was going on in America. Black guys wouldn't play in the middle because it was kind of thought of like the management position and the thinking.
Even basketball, I think even up to the 70s.
Yeah, your quarterback
for a long time. So to go through football, I think where we've gone through some bits when we were coming through, and we would have a certain perspective. But I have to say, going from the time I've been kind of coaching and in different environments, obviously different organisations as well, having the hub of here, working at Right Choice for the 3 years I did, unbelievable for me in terms of both football, seeing what talent is when it's not been shinied up.
The rawness.
Man, I love that.
Some of the best players I've seen were never going to be pros. Aaron Lynch, laser in terms of where he puts it.
Facts.
And he was never, because of areas of other things. So then I really got an appreciation for what uni looks like on the street.
Xabi Alonso, bro.
That's the guys elite.
Man.
But that's what that. So straight away I had a mentor where I could see university on the street.
Yeah.
So that was, then I can, you know what? Then you can kind of start making connections, and that gets exciting. So then working FA, the different Chelsea, whatever, and then Reading. What I've seen is academy coaches have got some inherent likes and values.
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah,
isn't it?
They have like our generation, from what we hear about how it was before. And even like when I see what's gone on at the FA, from what I've seen, the FA's done about 2-3 cycles of evolution from since I've been in my badges.
Oh, okay. I was about to say in the year, in what year? What
yeah, like
in your time
I've been
frame,
coaching since I was 21, so
21,
like
so
13,
14 years.
Do you know what I mean? Whatever we're saying. So yeah, I've seen it flip like 6 years. Like, do you know what I mean? Like 2-3 times,
and it's still not perfect.
No, it's not perfect. But what it has is that England, they came up with that England DNA thing.
Yep.
And although they're not the best,
2014,
2010 or something like that.
Okay, right.
I think it might have been in them to be between that time. You can see what they were trying to do. Well, you've seen it in the youth ages.
Yes.
So you've won the 17s World Cup, you've won the 20s World Cup.
That
can't be argued. And beating up Spain like 5-2.
Facts.
And so that's definitely a shift. So the coaches have a real appreciation. Again, there's obviously a continuum, but people have an appreciation for attributes. And they have an appreciation for trying to produce good football. Whether people get there or not. But nah, the young coach now,
that's good.
We're really conditioned.
Good.
Just like we're conditioned as fans. Any coaches that come through now, they know about tiki-taka. Who they look up to will be Spain.
Yeah, Pep.
More time. It's going to be
and
Pep.
that's why I use the word traditional. Those
guys, they've kind of mostly they'd be phased out just for their age.
And again, that's why I use that word in there, because I felt that the traditional coaches may not see or learn to adapt. Adapt.
But what I don't want to do is that tradition needs a certain environment. And the reason I say that is at professional football level, you're getting such a huge plethora of players that your mindset has to be diverse.
That's what I would say.
Grassroots is a bit more. That's all. So. And how do you motivate those that block to do what you need them to do? But the thing is now, because football is so, you might get a geezer that comes to be a plasterer in England, but they still play a good level of football in Spain.
Right.
And he's come down to your step 3 or step 4 club.
Yeah.
And he can ball out, bro. But the manager there, traditional manager, doesn't know. And my manager's just frustrated. He's getting cool now. The bullying things happens in the change room because my man's saying he's not doing enough.
And to mix that to the higher or whatever, a more pro end, what exactly happened? Bro, what I was saying, the young coach really appreciates Pep, that identity. There's the key certain parts of that traditional English thing that is of value.
Yeah,
and so there's been an identity reversal. Where now in the academies, certain academies, they can't make any defenders.
Yeah.
They can't get anybody that tackles.
Well, you
man are just balling out.
You've told me this before, where you said a lot of the rising, well, not a lot of them, but some of the rising generation of centre backs, they want to look flossy.
They think that they're 10.
But they don't want.
Yeah.
But they don't want to tackle.
Look at Ben White.
Not even Ben White.
Ben White's the highest level.
Reece Williams.
Right.
For
scrawny, stylish on Insta.
Bro,
Can't tackle.
I saw it today. Someone sent me a clip. Someone sent me a clip of a player.
It would make them sick.
Today, just signed for a club. In a training session. Man's been signed as a CB. They're doing 2v1s. I see my CB kick the ball, flip the ball, and I'm thinking,
identity issues. Bro.
What's going on? You're a centre back,
That's really interesting.
But
really
see,
interesting.
So then, when we do this is why this is really obviously that's probably why we're talking about it. Certain things cut through all of life, and identity is unbelievable because people have a football identity, an ideology, of like we say Spain or. Gegenpressing. Gegenpress. So the thing of the pressing. Obviously, we've all been indoctrinated. People have been pressing since the 80s, but not maybe at the same before that. Nothing new. Do you know what I mean? It evolved. However, now we've been really hit as coaches as well. That if you aren't pressing like that, it's almost like you're not really coaching properly.
Yeah.
That's it's almost unsaid, but that's the vibe. So, and it's right because if you don't have a plan when the opponent has the ball. If you're a fighter and you don't have a plan for what the opponent's jab or whatever, it's not going to make sense. But that will be going on. But then there'll also be a cultural identity thing going on. It's quite now dynamic. It actually makes it very interesting. Yeah. So like you're saying, a coach doesn't realise that he's young, so he's 30 odd, but he doesn't realise that he's been coached to coach by his dad, who maybe had a stand in the game or whatever. That may be more old school.
Or his mentor.
That
be an older
may
coach,
be a bit more old school. So he's got some really good positive bits of it, but then some other bit, he might just be victimising. I'm not saying whatever, but he might be victimising a particular kid going, I don't think he wants to run. I don't think he's X, blah, blah. Actually, he might be seeing a boy that looks like a La Liga player.
Yeah.
And because what he thinks of what La Liga football is he thinks you can't get a runner in that.
Right.
When actually he might, if he speaks to the kid, there's another,
again,
and he can run and he will run, but if you have the people in the building that can resonate with him, and that's the importance of the mix as well. If you have all the same type of people, no one's going to be able to get through to the kids. But if you've got a nice blend, well, you have a go your way, I'll have a go my way, and then that's how you
marry
see
up. Good cop, bad cop, isn't it?
And then sometimes that's what again the best back. That's what for me, Italy, they've got something special in terms of what they are as a football nation. To me, it's something special because they're almost a perfect blend of what is good, even the bad bits of fouling and blah blah of how you win.
How you win, yeah.
It's interesting. Again, this may be a biased view in my opinion, but if you were to list the top 10, maybe 15 managers of all time, I would probably say there'll be a higher number of Italians than any other nation.
Yes,
and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think more Italians have won the Premier League.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Different Italians, right?
Yeah, more Italians, as in
Mancini,
Ancelotti, Conte, than any other coach, any other nationality.
Ranieri, yeah.
That's the most remarkable. That's the most remarkable one.
Did Sarri win one now?
Not obviously not.
No, with Chelsea. Sorry.
No, he won the Europa League. He came fourth. Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is that again, there is something special about. I mean, if you think of Arrigo Sacchi and Capello and Trapattoni, like these are all just legendary elite managers that have done remarkable things in the game. And I don't know where that comes from, what it is, or why they developed that way.
It's the DNA, innit? It's the identity thing. They identify with the fact that we will win at any cost.
So this is interesting.
And they're good at
what
you're gonna have to pay.
Yeah.
So what you have to
What you're gonna have to pay. You're saying at any cost.
So listen, I'm not throwing out a conspiracy out there.
Go ahead.
But if you think of how the mafia are organised,
I didn't know if you wanted to go here.
And how that's linked, and how they have to be. They call it organised crime, and how connected they have to be.
Bro.
The timing of it,
it doesn't. I don't know.
Knowing who the authority is, it's not. Yeah. Like we said, they produce boxes as well, where they know who the golden boy is, how you protect him. Everybody is willing to do a little bit of dirty to get the job done.
That's it.
Everybody.
That's it.
So it makes
the accountant and there's always hide some money, bro.
Everybody,
and it always has to be done, almost like with certain, like when someone does a job, or like it has to be done within
their way.
Yeah, in not a reverence. What's the word I'm looking
classy
for?
Or like
you can't just go. You can't just go and bomb the enemy. Like no. It's like like you have to do it in this way, and that's interesting.
So
that's
interesting.
You see,
so
I don't know.
In the world we live in, even us talking like this,
that could be a stereotype.
It's a brilliant. That's it.
I apologise.
No, but see, that's where we are.
Yeah,
and I think we will evolve where we become much more comfortable with each other.
Yeah, that some people have.
And that's okay.
Those cultural, what's the word I'm looking for? Cultural
tendencies,
history, versus
without it being
you're being you're being yeah.
That's it. But it's that for a reason, because if it wasn't like that so much, all we notice is, you're like me like that.
Yeah.
This is where I'm a little bit different.
Yeah.
You're like me like that, and that's where I'm a bit different.
And it just be
all of a sudden, we
vibes.
can mix excellently
and respect each other's differences.
That would cause something else, which certain people
ain't trying to see that happen. I hear that.
But football wise, when I sit down, obviously I didn't know fully like what we're going to be talking about today. But when we start talking like this, that's how I know why I talk so much. And when we start talking about football, because the power it has, I know we hear it from like commentators. Game, man. What it's capable of, it could do anything.
Facts. It can
do
really change the world.
It could do anything.
If you actually look at it, it connects everyone to everyone. And I can meet a man that speaks a foreign language, but he can like football, and we're able to just relay.
We can relay and we'll talk again, or we'll see each other again, because you're going to go and follow this thing.
That's so true, because even at uni, like I did music tech at uni, and you kind of subconsciously, I don't know, you've probably had the same conversations with other people as well. When someone says they like hip hop, you test the water. What do you mean you like hip hop?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Who do you listen to? It's like let me see if you're certified or if you're just
facts.
Do you know what I mean? And when someone says a certain name or certain names, you almost feel like you're talking to a long lost brother.
Yeah.
Like do you know that?
You can have that door. You can have that door.
And I think football's the same. When you could be in a restaurant, you could be anywhere, and you talk to someone about, again, depending on what type of football fan they are. But again, you test the water to see what type of football fan they are. Are you just one of them? Yeah, go on then, mate. Or do you really like appreciate football? So you say what team you support. You ask a question about what did you think about the Euros, and then depending on how they describe it, you can say, you can stop the conversation. I was like, I thought it was good. Can I have the bill, please?
Big man thing.
Or they divert it into real thought, thoughtful things, and then you're like, oh yeah, now now we can have a convo. So I hear that completely.
But the game's beautiful, man. And I think more conversations like this will help. And the more we seek to understand and respect each other's boundaries and differences, and not see it as an attack. I think it will just breed just more diversity in the world without it having to be this piece of paper that people have to sign off and take
100%,
and it being a ticking box just to make sure that we stay legal in whatever that we're doing. But
it's an appreciation of, like, we appreciate a variety of a lot of other things in our life.
Facts.
Food, drink,
gal,
music. So if you want to appreciate it all, you have an opportunity to do that across the thing. And yeah, like you say, because football is a mixed thing.
It is.
11 actors on a field. It gives that opportunity. So, yeah.
But love for coming through, my guys.
No problem, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that.
Love for that.
Pleasure.
Appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Knock it off, Shell. Book.